Okay, lesson 42, meiosis. We will be able to discover the importance and process of meiosis. Now, ladies and gents, we've already discussed what meiosis is. It is the splitting of a cell, but not so that it can make new cells, but not so that it can make new cells for your body, but so that these new cells can do other things, specifically go away to make new, they can go away to make new human beings, and usually, and so on and so forth. So I'm here, I just went to the top. Come on, Jesus. I'll fix that in a second. I'll do it on my phone actually. So that's what meiosis is, but we're going to explore, I guess the real question for today's lesson is why? Why do we have meiosis in the first place? And actually it's an interesting answer, because the answer is not, we actually don't need meiosis. We human beings choose to do it, but not all organisms choose to go down the meiosis path. Now, last lesson we were talking about the opposite of meiosis, called mitosis. So mitosis, let's go back. I'm trying to do two things at once. All right, fixed and yeah, fixed. So done. We talked about mitosis. Now, mitosis is the idea of mitosis is that we do it. Why do we have mitosis? For growth and repair. The idea of growth and repair. So if you want to get taller, then you use meiosis and it makes you, taller. And so it lengthens the bones, but also repairs. So if you've got a broken bone, what your body will do is it will make new cells using meiosis to fix that bone so that you can, live a happy life. The idea of mitosis is that it's so Maxwell says, why do we need to make new cells? Well, we need to replace the ones that are gone. When we make a new cell, we make an exact copy. We clone the other cells. And before that can happen, we need to first split all the DNA into chromosomes, copy the chromosomes, and then split them amongst the new cells. We refer to this as cytokinesis. Now, how do we copy DNA? Well, when you copy DNA, you take one strand of DNA, take another strand of DNA, and you rip them apart and you unzip them. We actually call this unzipping because if you look at it, it's very much like a zipper on a hoodie. Now, once we've unzipped it, we then move some new base pairs into position. T bonds with A, C bonds with G, A bonds with T, and then what happens is that you fill this in for all of them. And then what do you know? Look at that. We've got 2 new strands of DNA. That's going to be really useful because we can take all of this, we can copy all of the chromosomes like so. Let's just color code them to make following them a bit easier. And then we split all those chromosomes up. Half of them go to the left and half of them go to the right. And we create 2 new cells. And those new cells are exact copies. Why? Because each of them has, let's follow along, each of them has a copy of the first chromosome, each of them has a copy of the second chromosome, each of them has a copy of the third chromosome, and that's why they are exact copies. And that's really good because obviously we want to make sure that every cell in your body is still a cell of you and not a cell of someone else. Now, this is the slide that I didn't want you to that I didn't get you guys to, that I'd like you to copy down. If you want, you can add this to the end of last lesson, but if you have already moved on, that's okay. You can just add this in. What this is this is that slides that I've already just spoken about, that I just showed you, but instead of getting you guys to copy down 46 like chromosomes. I've made it simple, and I'm going to get you guys to copy down 4. But I want you guys to remember that each of these 46 strands of DNA, each of these 4 strands of DNA represent the 46. Hopefully, and that's why I've written these bits of information here, just so that you know what's going on, because I don't want you to get halfway through and be like, what the heck? But yeah, obviously humans have more than 4 chromosomes. There are some animals that only have 4. You know, there are some animals that only have a couple of chromosomes. That happens sometimes, you know, like, but I don't know. I can't think of an animal. I think maybe the fruit fly only has 4. So you could think about this as the fruit fly. Has your laptop updated yet? As in, have I put these new slides up? There should be. Yes, okay, sure. I can have a quick look if you want. Let me have a quick look. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly jump out of here just to make sure. It should have. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly check because Gail's like, sir, is yours updated? It should have, it's syncing right now. So it should have just synced just then. So it's uploading now. So I don't know what's going on. So if it's a little bit different, it should be uploaded momentarily. Okay, back to the lesson. Sorry about that, guys. I just want to make, because some people are saying, so what's going on? These images are a bit different to the ones that I could see, so that's okay. So I'm going to keep this slide up for a little bit longer, just in case I want you to copy, because I want you to copy this down. If you haven't copied this down already, you've got a little bit longer. I'm going to keep it up for about maybe another minute and 30 seconds more, just to make sure that you've all got it. Are there any questions about mitosis?
No.
Nope. Is there anyone? Let's see. Is there anyone that needs more time to copy this down? Anyone needs more time to copy this down? I assume not. Let's move on then to the new topic, meiosis. Now, meiosis is why meiosis is like a little bit of information on this slide, but it's the same as the other thing. Why meiosis? What is it firstly? Meiosis is the act of taking one cell and turning it into 4 cells with different genetic code. This is important here. No longer, these are not clones anymore. These are different. Meiosis is the process of creating sex cells or gametes like sperm and egg cells. We've already discussed this. So if you don't want to copy this down, you can actually skip this line if you want, because we've already got it in your books. But like I've just put it here just so that it's to make sure this slide is complete. Now, this is one of the interesting facts. Meiosis isn't necessary. In fact, some organisms don't reproduce via meiosis. They reproduce by cloning, like mitosis. So they don't have meiosis. They just copy themselves. Sea stars and mushrooms are a good example of these. Mushrooms don't, some mushrooms, not all mushrooms, some mushrooms don't even have sex cells. They just go, right, I'm going to copy myself. And they do that. And then you've got a whole brand new mushroom, got a whole brand new sea star, but it's an exact clone of the other one. But that's okay. So if you don't need meiosis, then why the heck why do human beings go to all this trouble to make, these babies that aren't clones of them? It's like, wouldn't it be just easier just to make a clone of yourself? Why do we go to all this difficulty to make brand new organisms? And the reason is that there is an advantage because of genetic diversity. This is actually one of the biggest topics we're going to be talking about semester 2. We're going to be talking about genetic diversity. Why is genetic diversity so important? It's also better for adapting to change. An example would be if it turns out that if it turns out that you as a human is better at, I don't know, let me think. Adapting to change. If it turns out that you are not susceptible to a particular disease and you have children, your children won't be susceptible. So it's really good to put your genes into children, but you want to also maximize your genes. So if you don't get sick very often, and then you find someone else who maybe gets sick sometimes, but they're actually really athletic, you have a child, then that child's going to be like an amazing child that's not usually sick and pretty athletic. So that's why it's good to mix genes together rather than making exact copies. I'm going to keep this slide up for about another probably minute, and then I will move on.
You are so bored.
So add a mustache.
I'm just waiting for students to copy things down.
Do it like a spiky beard, like a triangle.
I finished copying down. Thanks, Gail.
I'm tired. What the hell is that? Imagine that. What is this? Head.
Yes, my laptop has updated. Someone asked me if my laptop is updated. Yes, it has updated.
Your red eyes on the baby.
We've got things to do, guys. No, enough distraction.
You're the red eyes on the baby.
All right, here we go. What else is there in meiosis? Just a quick heads up, guys. There is another little thing that goes on. So not only do you, when you start to split cells, do you actually not only do you end up with not only does it split the cells up into random groups of 4, it also swaps DNA, which I didn't know this happened until last year when I taught this for the first time. Before a cell splits in meiosis, the DNA allows genes to cross over. Some genes from one strand of DNA swap with genes of the same pair. This leads to more genetic differences. Let me show you what happens. So here we've got one strand of DNA, and here we've got another strand of DNA. And what they do is they swap. So some parts move over, and then some parts move over here. They swap some parts. It's like sort of saying, before we mix all these vegetables up in a soup, let's make sure that we, mix the vegetables up together first before we put them in the pot. That's the idea, that you're pre-mixing them. If you want, it's like if you have a deck of cards, it's like let's split the deck first and then let's shuffle them. So the idea is you have some crossover. It's actually this process that makes sure that, it doesn't matter how many children that you have with someone, each child will be different as long as they're not identical twins. because like it's pretty much impossible to get exactly the same chromosome. Yeah, let's keep this up for about another 30 seconds more, and then I will move on.
Sir, how was your day?
So far, it's been pretty good. I got to have noodles at home. I was happy about that. Because it's like I've got to go. Unlike you guys, I've got to go back to school tomorrow. So maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. I don't know, but you know, I'm gonna have to keep going back to school. So yeah.
Sir, how long do you think like lockdown's going to
How long? Well, they've said it's going to go for another week. I actually think I reckon that will be it. I'm optimistic because we haven't had that many cases yesterday and today. So I reckon maybe by this time next week, it will be pretty much at zero again. But I'm an optimist. So yeah.
I'm really feeling bad for those year 11s and 12s that didn't study for the exams, thinking it's going to be postponed and they have
What's
to
it
go
called?
back tomorrow.
I've got a year 11 subject, so I have to go to school on Tuesday,
Yeah,
Wednesday,
and I
and
was like,
Thursday.
damn, Darcy has to go back
Well,
as well.
actually, they're talking about it. I might not have to.
So let's talk about these chromosomes. How do we get what does meiosis look like? So just like before, we're going to make exact copies. Now I know that I've color coded these differently, but each of these makes up part of a pair. Okay, so each of these you could think of as being in a pair. So we've got one pair here, one pair here, one pair here. So the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to swap some DNA in their pair. And then, just like last time, we're going to copy each chromosome. So we copy each chromosome. So now we have two copies of each. But then we do something interesting. Instead of splitting each copy instead of splitting each copy into two cells, we split them firstly in half, right? So this is exactly like mitosis so far, but then we split them again. The cells undergo splitting again, or cytokinesis again, splitting into 4 cells, each with 23, not 46 chromosomes. There are no pairs. Now, this information here, I'm not going to get you copied down. It's a bit fancy, this information here. But I want you guys to look at something for a second. So I want you to look at potentially, this is the most important part right here. This here is a pair. And in this pair, we have one copy of 1A, we've got 1B, we've got 2A, we've got 2B, if you want. So normally what would happen is that when you split, each cell gets a copy. So this would be 1B, this would be 2B, this would be 1A, this would be 2A. This is exactly the same. Normally, each of them would get one copy from one copy of every single chromosome. But now, instead, each cell has one string of DNA from each pair. So a pair normally has 2 DNA in it. 1, 2. Each of these is only getting one of those. So you might end up with 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, something like that. But the problem is that you don't even get to choose which one you end up with. So you could end up with, instead of ending up with 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, you could end up with 1, 3, 6, 8, and 9. You could end up with 1, 4, 5, 7, 9. You could end up with 1, 3, 5, 8, 10. You know, you could end up with any of these combinations. And because you guys can see, right, there are so many different combinations, right, of those pairs. So let's just say you could end up with instead 10, 8, 5, 3, 1. You could end up with because there's so many combinations, there are so many possible types of genes that you could pass on. So there's so many different ways. So what does meiosis look like? This is the same as the mitosis page, but it's a little bit different. I'm gonna get you guys to copy this down. I'm gonna give you a while to copy this down because I know there are a lot of things going on this page. I'm gonna give you guys about maybe a minute, minute 30, so 90 seconds from now, just to sort of get this copied down. But the main idea is this: each strand only has half as many as it should have, right? In this case, this one's got 1, 3, and this has got 2, 4. But it could have been the other way around instead. Okay. A little bit longer to copy this down because there is a lot of things going on in this picture. I'm going to go back over this one more time. So the first thing we do is we copy each of this to each strand of DNA. And then we split, not once, we split twice, 2 splits to get 4 copies, 4 new cells. And each of these new cells only has 23 DNA strands or 23 chromosomes. In this case, if I was to name or label it again, we have 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B, 4A, 4B. You would actually end up with, this is 1B and 3B. This is 2B. Sorry. This is 2B and 4B. This is 1A and 3A, and this is 1B and 4B. But it could have been 1 and 3 instead. It could have been 1 and 4 instead of 1 and 3. That would have been fine as well, as long as it has 1 from each pair. I'm going to move on now.
Wait, so is this the last slide that we need to write?
No, there's 2 little bits, and that's it. Why?
Okay, it's just because we won't be able to do the questions then.
Yeah, all right. I'll give you guys the start of. I think I'll give you guys. That's why I wanted to shoot it done at the start, because you would have had more time. I'll give you guys the start of next period to work on the questions. This is why there is so much diversity within the human population, and even between brother and sisters. There is 2 to the power of 23, right? Because there's 23 chromosomes. There is 2 ways to choose. You could choose the first one, or 23 pairs, sorry. So you could choose the first of the pair or the second of the pair. So with 23 pairs, as I said, you could have 1, 2, you could have 1, 3, 5, you could have 2, 4, 6, but you could also have 2, 4, 5. There is 8 million different possible ways to divide up these chromosomes into each type of gamete. Plus there is random trend, plus there is random crossover, plus if you're with a partner, they've also got 8 million possible ways to split up their DNA. So that means the probability of you having a child, the probability of you having a brother that has exact, or a sister that has exactly the same chance, exactly the same chromosomes as you, is a 1 in, because you've got to multiply that by 8, so it's going to be 1 in, what's 8 million times 8 million? 2 to the power of 23, and then we square that. That's a, whoa, man, that's a 70 billion, trillion, 70 quadrillion, 1 in 70 quadrillion chance that your sister will have exactly the same chromosomes as you. But even then, there is still some random crossover, so you still won't be exactly the same. There is just no chance that you and your brother and sister, or your brother and sister, will have the same DNA as you. I'm going to keep this slide up for about another 45 seconds. And yeah, diversity is a good thing. There are just so many, it means that like you could have like, yeah, you would have to have like 8 million children before you had a, like, no, sorry, you'd have to have 500, no, you'd have to have 35 quadrillion children before having a 50% chance that one of them they matched. So yeah, unlikely. Actually, the maths on that is a little bit wrong, but that's okay. Because of the birthday paradox kind of thing, you know. So next up, next idea is this. I want to talk to you guys about one last thing, which is this. So there is absolutely no chance that you could possibly have a brother or a sister with exactly the same DNA as you. But then what the hell is going on with identical twins? Because identical twins have the same DNA. What is going on? So this is just the last little bit about twins, just because I know a lot of students may ask questions about this. Some of you guys may have twins in your family. So what's going on with twins? There are 2 types of twins. Identical twins occur when one of the fertilized eggs, so the egg gets fertilized, you've got a baby, but instead of that baby then splitting into 2, that then splits into 4, and via mitosis, and then you end up with like a whole brand new baby. What happens is that one splits into 2, but then those 2 kind of like go away from each other. And then, well, then they just keep splitting. So they split into 2, they split into 4, and this one splits into 2, and this one splits into 4, and so on and so forth. And that's how you can end up with those cells make a new organism with the same DNA. You can also have, there are other types of twins, by the way. There are more than, I said there are 2 types, but there are other types of twins. You can also get like a situation where conjoined twins, when these 2 things smash into each other again, and then they get conjoined. You can have them when one smashes into the other one and then gets absorbed. So it's actually possible to have like, you know, have a twin inside your body, but then, you know, your body wins and takes over. And so then you've got this, yeah, it's kind of weird, but trust me, I know Ellie's looking at me, like I can't see her, but I know that Ellie's looking at me like, what the hell, that's gross, because that's the kind of reaction she'd give me at this point. What about other twins? What about fraternal twins? Twins that occur A fraternal twins is when you, instead of having one egg in the uterus, there are two. And so because there are two eggs, right, both of them happen to get fertilized. And so if both eggs get fertilized, then you end up with two children at the same time. But two sperm making two different babies with different DNA. That means that you can have, if fraternal twins, you can have one that's a boy and one that's a girl. Sometimes it's one of the dumbest questions that people say is like, can you have identical twins when one's a boy and one's a girl? It's like, no, because if they're identical, their DNA matches exactly. So therefore, they would have exactly the same chromosomes, so they would both be boys. If one's a girl, then they've got different chromosomes. So fraternal twins, though, can have a boy and a girl. I actually find that really weird. It's like, I'm a twin, but my twin is a girl, or I'm a twin and my twin is the other sex than me. It's like, what? But you're twins. It's just, I know that I understand science of it, but it's a bit weird. And of course, ladies and gents, whenever you've got identical twins, one of them is always evil and the other one is always good. This is a known fact. It's been scientifically proven.
So which one's the good one?
Which one's the good one? Where?
Out of those two pictures there.
Listen, you don't know their first names, but let me say this. One of them is named after an angel, and one of them is named, has the same name as a demon. So, like, I'll let you guys make your own.
Lol. Someone just commented.
I'll let you guys come up with your own theories there. Anyway, ladies and gents, that brings us to 306. So I'm going to end the lesson here.